Hey everyone, One Big Boss here, and as you can tell, we're back for another new to retro review. I remember when I started this, I was saying that I would do the review weekly of each chapter for Resident Evil Revelations 2, and it just didn't work out like that. I looked it over and I was like, man, I should have done it all at once, but I was really excited for this game and what it was bringing to the table, at least what I saw that was bringing. So I pretty much told you how the game works at the beginning, so now I'm just going to talk about really what I enjoyed about the game, what I didn't like, and kind of like missed opportunities that the game had, but what it still delivered and brought to the fans. So without any further ado, let's get on with it, the final review of Resident Evil Revelations 2, episode 28 for the PS3. The first thing I got to really talk about is the co-op for the game. I mean, I love the co-op for this game. I thought it was great. I haven't sadly gotten to play it with a lot of people throughout the whole game and stuff, but I got to admit, when it comes to the co-op and how it was handled, because it's not just a simple, oh, you got two players, so each person has a gun, we're going to mow down as many enemies as possible. It's nothing like that, and that's what makes it unique. You have Barry and Claire, who obviously are the gunners of the game, and they use their knives, their guns, whatever to dispatch the enemies. Meanwhile, their partners run and hide, or they help you unlock rooms, crawl through spaces, break open doors, see enemies through the walls. It's very different, and I think when you play with somebody, it's better just to, like, if someone, like, okay, I'll let you be the gunner this time, I'll do everything else that you need and stuff. I think it was really an interesting concept for them to do that differently than what has been done in past Resident Evil games, like in Resident Evil 5 and Resident Evil 6. So, kudos for them for actually doing a good job at that part, because, again, it makes the game, it kind of puts the emphasis on survival horror, like, back into the game, which is what people have been wanting for a long time. Because with one person having a gun and the other person just having a crowbar or having run away from the enemies or throw bricks at them, it really limits you in what you're able to do. And I got to admit, that was something that was really good, and I'm glad that they had decided to go with something like that. And the other thing I really loved about Resident Evil Revelations 2 was the characters, especially Barry. This was like the game I had been waiting for, to have Barry come back in, and I was so glad that Capcom finally included him in something again, other than the Resident Evil 5 Mercenaries mode. This was just great. Everything from his voice acting, the way he was portrayed, it was awesome. Everything about it just screamed classic Resident Evil goodness. The same cheesiness, the one-liners, everything that made Barry what he was in the original Resident Evil, and even in the remake, was amazing. Like, I was really shocked that they took that much detail into making Barry this badass character, and his voice actor, who I've heard in various different video games and animes over the years and stuff like that, he was a phenomenal choice as Barry, and I gotta admit, it was really great. Some of the other characters in it, I really loved too. Like Natalia, I thought she was an amazing partner. Like, who would have thought like that, finding this little girl would have actually been a good thing in the game? But, it worked. They made it work. She was adorable. She wasn't annoying. She wasn't like, Ashley from Resident Evil 4. She was really great. Felt like a helpless child at times, but then she also showed, like, no fear. It was really awesome. And, I was really glad that she as a character did not annoy me throughout the whole mission with Barry. Like, you actually felt, like, scared around her and stuff like that. When she got scared of things, you felt scared. Like, but she wasn't annoying, which was awesome. And the other character I really loved too was Myra. I thought she was a wonderful addition to the cast. Well, okay, not everybody seems to think this. Now, the fans seem to love her a lot, but official reviewers on like IGN and GameSpot and a couple other places, they've all said that they didn't like her because she swears too much. I'm like, she's a typical girl, teenage girl. She's going to swear. She's got daddy issues and stuff like that. She's going to swear. And that's what happens. That's what happens when you have teenagers. They swear, and apparently they don't seem to understand that. But I loved her as a character. I thought that she was strong. I like how there was a small backstory to her, like why she doesn't like using guns, like what had happened, and then the relationship between her and Barry and how it all comes together. I thought it was actually handled really well, and for that, like, I give Capcom major props for doing that, because again, if you just made characters that were like, because there were characters that a lot of people didn't like from like Resident Evil 4, 5, and especially 6, it kind of hurts the game. And thankfully, the main cast of characters in no way hurt this game. Of course, other characters in the game, in my opinion, sadly did. And also, you can't forget Claire Redfield. She was a true badass throughout this whole game, And I, for one, was extremely happy to see her back in the franchise. I know a lot of other people were, too. Now, the big thing about it was, when she was first announced, was the fact that, she was getting a new voice actress. The first time ever, because we all know Alison Court has been the voice of Claire for, God, like 18 years now, it has to be. So, a lot of people were upset that she wasn't coming back to do it, because if I remember correctly, I think she wasn't asked to come back. Which, like, it happens, it's something we have to get used to. And I gotta admit, the girl who replaced Claire, Alison Court, to play Claire, she did a phenomenal job. I think she was really good, and I think they embodied, like, a little bit of Chris Redfield, of how tough she is now in her older age and everything. I kind of see, like, a lot of Chris in her, which is pretty cool. And, because, like, siblings playing off one another and everything like that. And I gotta say, her voice actress, she did a good job for taking over the role. She did really good, because we all know that voice acting can go either really bad or really good, and quite frankly, this could have been a lot worse. And I was glad to see that the character came back, and they made it seem like it was about her a lot too, but in the end, it was really just a lot about Barry and how badass he was. But Claire, she does a good job too. But I gotta say, as far as character-wise goes, that's pretty much like the best of the best. Pretty much everybody else in the game is, well, they're not really that interesting. The people that Claire finds in the bar, as you can see on the screen here, like this guy right here, unfortunately, I just didn't feel anything for those characters when they lived and when they died and everything, I was just like, yeah, okay, you're just filler characters, you're not really here, and it's kind of sad. And, even Neil Fisher, Claire's boss, who gets captured in this, and you obviously find out who he is later on in the game, it doesn't really impact me. It's like, oh, okay, so you're this character. They all seem very bland and plain and ordinary, and that's where it differs from how Resident Evil Revelations was, because in the first Revelations, Keith, Quint, Director O'Brien, Morgan Lansdale, Jessica, Parker, all the characters that were included in that game were very well written and well received by fans. A lot of people really enjoyed them and like what they brought to the game. Unfortunately, this time around, the characters are just here to advance the plot, and it doesn't really add much else. So, sadly, yeah, it's kind of a stinker right there. I wasn't really happy with that part of the game. And unfortunately, the other bad part about this game that I really hated was the fact that Alex Wesker herself was pretty much a wasted character. Like, there was the whole Wesker Children project, which obviously none of us really liked to begin with, but it's all we had now at this point because they've warped the Resident Evil series so much. But I felt like there would be a big build-up to her character and everything, and quite frankly, there wasn't. There wasn't anything to really like about her. I mean, if you like her, that's fine. If you can find something you like in her, that's great. I mean, all the more power to you. But personally, for me, she didn't do it for me as a character. And as a supposed Wesker, like a Wesker child and everything, you thought she would have been a bit more badass, and they don't go to any of her backstory. They don't go to pretty much anything of what she's done, except for like how she's been building this island, this different way she's going to transcend beyond what Albert Wesker did and everything. And quite frankly, like, I felt that her character was very bland, boring, not even a challenge. I'm gonna be brutally honest. Her boss battle was nothing, and this transformation you're seeing right here, it's nothing different than Chief Menendez from Resident Evil 4, pretty much. That's where they got this idea from. And I was just like, yeah, no, you done fucked up, Capcom. I was not impressed with the handling of this character, because you showed that picture of her and Wesker together with Albert, and you're like, oh shit, what, are we gonna get something from it? And sadly, we didn't. She's just a wasted character. And, I mean, thankfully, all the other characters in the game that I mentioned that I really did like help make the story really worth playing through, and seeing all these characters in a whole new light. Claire's hair being cut, the evolution of Moira's character, and Barry himself just being an all-around badass in the game. It's just Alex herself was sadly a waste, and I just love the fact that she went the way of her brother, like just taking a rocket like right to the chest, although he was a rocket to the face, and he took 2 to kill, not just 1, so that was pretty cool, but still. Wasted character, and one of the things that really bothered me about the game. Another issue that I faced with this game while playing it was the fact that it didn't look as good as it could have been. I get that this was a budgeted game and everything like that, but certain parts of the game just didn't look as fleshed out. It looked way too dark. Cutscenes just didn't look as good as they could have. Even on a budgeted game at times. That's how I felt personally. But another thing I really had problems with was the graininess. In certain parts of the game and in the game's raid mode, you're dealing with a grainy screen. I mean, we've got these big, like, 1080p TVs now, and We can get ultra high definition and 60 frames per second on YouTube and in our video games, and we're still getting games that look like we're trying to play on like old 1990s cable boxes and stuff like that. Something like, you know what I'm saying? It really actually does affect your raid mode gameplay, and during the main gameplay too, it is kind of a pain in the ass when it comes up. I just don't know why they didn't give us the option to turn it on or off. Kind of like in Resident Evil 5, how you got different filters for the game for completing it. There was like the horror one, a sepia, a black and white. That was kind of cool, but to have it in the game just kind of hurts the quality of an already budgeted game. It's something you don't need when you're dealing with something like this, you know? The thing I do really like about the game, though, despite some poor visuals that hurt you a lot, is the creatures of the game. The creatures of the game are more memorable than any Resident Evil monster that's been out pretty much in like the last, like ever since like Resident Evil 4 pretty much. A lot of the monsters in this game are going to be memorable, and they're different, and that's what I liked about the game. And the fact of what we dealt with in raid mode. Yeah, there was some enemies from Resident Evil 6 in there and everything like that, but they could have spent some time developing some new enemies just for raid mode itself. But for the most part, I really do enjoy raid mode, despite the graininess of how the game looks and shit. I do got to give them props for designing the main room where you choose your characters to play. It was really creepy. All the scenes from like Resident Evil 5 and 6 and picture frames and just you trapped in this room before you go on the missions. It was really interesting. The music is great, and the character selection is pretty good because they also gave us Leon Kennedy, Chris Redfield, and Jill Valentine. So I gotta admit, that was awesome right there. So, I mean, I played raid mode more than the campaign. I played through the campaign once, and once I got to do raid mode, I've been going non-stop cranking out. Because this time around, raid mode is easy to do, unlike in the last game where raid mode, you grinded for hours and got nowhere, and it was hard to level up. This time around, you've got a lot to help you level up. It's easier to level up. There's daily missions and all that cool stuff. So kudos for you, Capcom, for coming through and not screwing up raid mode. Again, I would have personally rather have seen Mercenaries because I am a Mercenaries guy. I do love the Mercenaries game, but regardless, you know, I still love raid mode because it's fun to play with friends. So again, kudos Capcom, don't screw up again, and hell, can you give us like a Mercenaries actual game? Like not like the 3DS one, but one on the consoles, please? So, in the end, is Resident Evil Revelations 2 worth a buy to you? Well, given that I think it's about $30 for the whole game, it's not that bad of an asking price. I mean, the game could have been better in a lot of different ways, the graphics could have been a bit better, gameplay could have been a lot longer, because sadly this game is pretty short. But the lovable characters, the return of old favorites, classic one-liners returning, the fun that raid mode offers, and how fun co-op actually is during playing the campaign and raid mode, it adds a lot and gives you a lot, and there's so much replay value, which again, in a lot of video games these days we don't get a lot of. So given what we were given with this game and a budget title and the fact that Resident Evil hasn't been what it should have been for years, I say yes. Buy this game if you're a fan of the franchise. You might be a little lost if you're not a fan, but it's something definitely different to pick up and try out. So honestly, if you get the cash, buy the game. I think right now on the PlayStation Network, the thing is about, like, the first episode is like $2 or something. Or you can go out and buy the hardcover copy, which I do plan on doing because I want that because I'm a collector and I'm crazy like that. So, again, yeah. Revelations 2 got its disappointing moments, but overall it could have been a worse game, and it turned out to be a pretty damn fun Resident Evil game, and that's not easy to say, honestly, in this day and age. Alright everybody, episode 27 is over and done with, so we are moving on to bigger and better things. And where we're going this time, well, grab your pogo sticks and your top hats because we are heading back to legendary Duckburg. I say heading back because we are revisiting DuckTales Remastered. Now, I played the original on the NES years ago, and when they announced this a couple years ago that it was going to be remastered, I thought it was just like a funny joke and stuff, but then I saw how real it was, and my inner childhood like just came out and exploded, like a lot of other people who were kids in the 80s and 90s and loved DuckTales. DuckTales is awesome, and quite frankly, so was this game. So, as always, everybody, please like and subscribe because it's free in this day and age. Free is a damn good thing. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and any of the social media sites I've listed down below because I have those and it's an easy way to keep up with what I'm always working on and what I'm doing. As always, everybody, thank you for watching. I'm One Big Boss, and I will see you all next time.